I think we must hear the General speak himself. The author speak must be an important part of the event. May I request His Excellency, General Singh, to kindly come and address the audience, please. There's never a free lunch or free dinner, so I have to earn it by saying a few words. First and foremost, thanks sincerely to the Shaheed Nanak Singh Foundation and to Ravi Ranjit and his organization for hosting such a wonderful event and a program which will be memorable for most of us, or all of us, and particularly my family. I would like to thank the Right Honorable Mr. Dominic Grieve, QC, MP, Secretary of State, and also for Justice and the Attorney General of UK and Wales, for the kind words he said about me, and most importantly, of the bonds that are eternal between India and the United Kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, a hand for that. And today's wish from the bottom of my heart, and I'm sure everybody will echo that sentiment, that may these bonds grow stronger and stronger. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to first and foremost thank all of you, this very distinguished audience, His Excellency Shri Jaimani Bhagwati, our High Commissioner in UK, and Lords, the Excellencies, and other very distinguished members of today's audience. I'm indeed privileged, and so is my family, because today I'm very happy. It's one kind of a reunion of my family, my son, my daughter, my son-in-law, and my 5 grandchildren are here this evening, and some of them participated in the proceedings. My sister has come all the way from Norway, and her husband and her son are also very much prominently here. So is my younger brother's daughter, who is living in Leeds. She's come all the way here. So for me, it's a great occasion. For my family, it's a greater occasion. And we want to thank you sincerely for giving us this great privilege and honor. Yes. I would like to say, firstly, most of us would be very keen to finish this speeches and everything else and get on with the lovely dinner which has been laid on. But may I make an earnest request? Could I have 10 minutes of your time? Because what took me 5 years or so to write, I at least must get 10 minutes to speak with you. Ladies and gentlemen, as I hung my spurs on 30th September 2007, I heard an inner voice that urged me to write about my experiences and chart the course of my life. One evening, quite by chance, I met but one Singh, the noted historian. He said to me that he would like to write my memoirs. Thanking him, I replied that I needed some more time. Alas, it was not to be so, for he passed away soon thereafter. Family and friends, including some from the media, started asking me when or if I was coming out with my book. Thus, about 5 years ago, I decided to pen down my thoughts before my memory started to fade. This account reflects my personal views, my book, and it is basically the story of my life. I did face a moral dilemma while undertaking this project, and now I understand why very few army chiefs have taken this plunge, as it is indeed a tough call. Should one describe one's achievements in life objectively, even if they appear as self-praise, or take the mellow approach? Finally, I decided to write about events as they happen, and while doing so, be as factually correct as possible. My constitutional position has to some extent prevented me from writing about certain sensitive issues or writing more freely about others. This story, without any pretensions of literary excellence, is a lucid account of a simple and straightforward soldier, born without a silver spoon, who reached the top without any godfather. My autobiography's style is definitely unorthodox and different, with some experimental sketching of my innermost thoughts, and at places a recreation of scenarios almost fiction-like, and a personalized description of events, experience and perceptions. That's why I feel that my book is a bit different from other autobiographies that you may have read. I've charted my own course, as I usually did whenever assigned any mission. And I have endeavored to write in a manner that would appeal as much to the youth in our country, the young and not so young leadership in the army, is also the serious professionals and higher leaderships of the military, civil and the political domains of our country. It's the story of a secular son of India, of his 3 generations who have served the Indian army and the nation from 1913 to 2012. It's almost a century of service to the nation and the army. Ladies and gentlemen, becoming the Chief of Army Staff of the famous Indian Army shall remain the greatest achievement of my life. I was indeed fortunate to be the first Army Chief from the elite Maratha Light Infantry, which has a proud history dating from 1768. In 2004, the first thing the media asked me, how does it feel to be the first Sikh to become the Army Chief? My immediate response was, I'm an Indian first and foremost. Having said that, I'm also proud of the fact that I've been the first Sikh to have led this great army, and also a Maratha, because I spent 40 years of my adult life with the gallant Maratha soldiers. 2 mottos are dear to my heart, that of my regiment, duty, honor and courage, and Himmat-e-Marda, Madad-e-Khuda, of the famous Skinner's horse, a great cavalry regiment. At the conceptual level, I worked out a broad framework of my autobiography and endeavored to cover the vast canvas of 6 decades plus as succinctly as possible. My editor used a big scissor and remorselessly knocked off about 15% of my manuscript. Interestingly, along with this pleasurable and at times frustrating exercise of writing my memoirs, I wrote off 2 computers and I punched on the keyboard over 200,000 words and the wrong button many times. Rubbing salt to my bruised fingers, some people kept asking my secretary, Ankur Garg, hey, man, tell us, who is actually writing the story of the general? They didn't think me doing it myself. He himself replies, Ankur, you're kidding. They just refused to believe him. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there was no one else. It was me, but I had a very close team. I would bounce off my ideas with them, and Alok Dutt, who made this audiovisual, who knows me in and out, was a very important member of that team. Hats off to this Alok Dutt. If the colonel of Indian Army can do this, what he has done, probably he deserves to be making movies and becoming a great man himself. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have taken my readers over 4 decades and a half of my voyage in uniform, and this particular journey of an intrepid infantryman from a pipsqueak to a colonel, and thereafter in flag ranks up to an army commander. Then I have covered the most coveted appointment or assignment of anyone's military career, the tenure as the Army Chief. The crown that the Army Chief wears is laced with thorns. This eventful period of over 2.5 years has been described by me in a very frank and forthright manner. Ladies and gentlemen, maybe God has been kind. I have been gifted. I can tell you, my face does not show the ups and downs of my life. The hazards I faced, I have been shot through my body. It doesn't have anybody except me because my golf swing improved after that. The terrorists claimed 5 lakhs for saying, "Hey, brigadier ko Allah ko shaheed ho gaya, Allah ka pyara bana diya." Lekin after a month when they saw me back, they said it can't be him, uska farishta aa gaya hai. This is Kashmir at the height of insurgency. In my formative years, there was a period of 8 years from 73 to 81. 8 years, 8 postings. Pune to Joshimath sector, Malari, high altitude in the Himalayan area, Staff College, Wellington, and then to New Mall, a god-forsaken place where mosquitoes were this big and elephants used to come and rub their backs on the wooden bashas that we had. One day my wife says, there's an earthquake happening. I said, yes, it's shaking, the whole thing is shaking. She says, yes. I rang up people, help. They said, no sir, just don't get out of your house. There are 100 elephants on this place. This is their right of way. It's an elephant corridor. We've been through that, and my children and grandchildren hear these stories and they laugh because that's why I wrote it. That when we had so many transfers, my son said, "Papa, are we posted?" I said, "No, why? But you're packing." I said, "It's for an overnight picnic." That was the life of Vivek and Sonia, our children, and that is so for most of the people who have been posted in infantry. Well, my book talks about Siachen Glacier, it talks about Kargil War, because I was in action all my life. And I don't know why, wherever I went, I had to be in action. If there was no action, then action got created. I don't know, it was destiny or what. When Kargil happened, we were surprised initially, but then we fought back with a determination like a wounded tiger, and we said we'll get all of them out from our territory, and we did that. In my book, I have talked about the perfidy committed at that time and the lies trotted out. But facts are facts, so therefore there's nothing to say anything about it. And other books have also said what I've said. But I did feel like bringing out my perspective of Kargil War, including then the army chief and also the president of the country, Pervez Musharraf. A very interesting 3-4 pages is an account of us. We were peers together at the same time. He was Army Chief of Pakistan, I was the Army Chief of India, but he also he was wearing the second hat of the President of the country. So he was technically above me protocol-wise. But if there was a showdown, if I'm just imagining, then we would both be leading our armies, and I knew I had an edge over him because I was doing full-time Chief of Army Staff. He was doing much more than that. So I've described Pervez Musharraf and me, and I've beautifully described our lives, more or less very similar, up to a certain level, then we diverged. And I have said truthfully what I felt about him. I hope he doesn't mind it, but I've said we both married pretty girls, so my wife is here, and so yes, this was just on the lighter side, but I talked about the requirement of the Chief of Defence Staff for our Army, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, these are current issues. Also, such a committee wanted to know how many people of which religion and which background are there in the armed forces. So when they asked me, we are not cooperating with the such a committee, I just said, well, we look at a man and see his merit, his professionalism, his qualifications, and how he's done a given job. And that's how he goes up in the Indian Army. We don't look at where he comes from, what language he speaks, what color he is, and therefore everybody's equal, everybody's welcome. Merit comes. So that was the end. They stopped asking any further questions to the armed or the other armed forces about breakdown of whatever it is and whatever they had in their mind. I've also spoken about modernization, I've spoken of leadership, morals, ethics, and corruption. I've talked of development of human resources, sports and management. I was a mountaineer, I am a mountaineer, I shall always remain a mountaineer. And therefore I understood our challenges on the Himalayan borders. I've described Siachen from a point of view of military man, from a mountaineer, a military mountaineer. It's very easy to say, get off that mountain and make it a mountain of peace. I said, but there must be an acknowledgement of where we are today. Because if that is not acknowledged, tomorrow somebody will say, no, we were in this place all along. And therefore, how do you dispute that? You have to have checks and balances. So I said, as long as that is authenticated, we can move back. But in any case, I said, if your real territory, your real estate is high altitude, mountains, you can't say, I'm sorry, it's expensive, so I won't guard that frontier. So even if we move out from the higher reaches of the Siachen Glacier, I have a beautiful panorama. First time somebody's used a panorama in a book to explain a region, because that's easier for people to understand. You can see where the glacier is, and you can see that the Pakistani side can't see the glacier, because there's a very high mountain chain in between. So I try to use a medium, and I'm very fortunate to have the famous artist Sarabjit Singh's panoramas, courtesy his wife. Now that's why I explain, even if we don't occupy those positions, we fall back, and both sides fall back, but still we have to keep that force at an altitude of 10, 12,000 and training in those higher altitudes, so the expense will be the same. So you're not going to save anything. You have some high altitude areas, you have to have the troops to guard them, as long as the frontiers are not resolved. Once they're resolved, I'm sure, like Europe, the Swiss Alps don't make a problem to anybody, because you don't find one person sitting over there saying this is ours, and the boundaries are well known. So therefore we also looking forward to what my Prime Minister has ever articulated, that the border should become irrelevant, like Europe. You drive from France to Spain, you don't know when you entered Spain. You go from there to Belgium, you don't know, you're just driving. And that's the way we would like our subcontinent, our region, Southeast Asia, to be. That you should see a day when there's peace and there will be prosperity all around. I have written in my book how I visualize our relations with Pakistan. We want to be very friendly. We want to be also living peacefully, so that we can work for the betterment of our people, and peace and prosperity are things that go together. So also with China, we want a number of rounds of talks have been going on, so that we resolve our boundary issues, and both these huge countries and important countries today move in a peaceful manner to resolve the issues and concentrate and focus on the well-being and development of their people. So I think that is also a very good approach, which our very statesman-like leaders at the highest level have decided. Peace and tranquility on the borders, and we resolve all our problems in a pragmatic manner. And we would like that the broad parameters and political parameters and the other formalities are decided. After that, we resolve our issues. So I think there's a very mature dialogue taking place with all our neighbors. With Bangladesh, we have moved so fast and forward that things are looking up between the two countries. And in Myanmar also, bridges have been opened up, and so also with Sri Lanka, and Bhutan has always been a close neighbor, Nepal. So I always have been a positive-minded man. My book is all about positive stories and positive vibrations. There's nothing negative about it, because I believe that we have a great future, and our leadership is also working hard to take our country forward. And no matter which government has been in power, but the bigger picture is clear to the Indians. We have a role to play in this century, and we'll play. Now, talking specifically about NRIs in UK, in America, and other places, particularly in UK now, and our bonds with the United Kingdom, I must say that when I came here as an army chief, I reviewed the Guard of Honor in the Wellington barracks. I was a proud grandson of a sepoy who said, Kaka, Angrez Afsar Sanu inspect karte sige. And they used to inspect us and see that we are properly turned out and we knew our drill. And one day you will probably see the British soldiers doing the same thing, and you will inspect them. God made it true for me. Yeah. The voice and words of my grandfather, as echoed by His Excellency Chairman Bhagwati, our High Commissioner, he has a very sharp mind. He scanned through my book, but he got the essence of what I had written. my grandfather's words. A simple soldier said, he said, officers cannot command respect. They have to, rather, cannot demand respect. They have to command it. They have to earn it by their conduct, by their caring attitude, by their leadership qualities. And that's what the President of India, former President of India, and the back cover has written in my book, that he liked that statement very much of my grandfather. So I'm privileged to have had advice of a grandfather when I was just a second lieutenant. I'll say we have all been through tough times. We have all seen a tough life, but not many have passed it on. In army, we say, pass it on. It's passing it on. Whatever I've experienced, maybe a future generation may be able to benefit from it. Therefore, passing it on is there. Today we have Viscount Colonel Singh here, whose father is a hero for all of us who have studied military warfare and from defeat into victory. And also the Burma campaign, architect of our defeat into victory. And he has written something about me on my back cover. It is there because I felt he's a soldier who has seen both the British Indian Army, and he's seen the British Army, he's seen the world, he's seen his father's experience. So what a great tribute he has given to Indian Army, because I represent the Indian Army. Thank you, sir, for that. Indeed, I must have done something good in my previous life, that I have been given so much of honor, such a privilege to be here this evening, to have had assignments like what I had. As a governor, I'll just sum up in one line to say that I have been given a responsibility in a very challenging state, and I want to be remembered, and along with my wife, as the people's governor. That is the biggest tribute we can get, that sobriquet we are trying to achieve. And also, I'd say, my strength in life has been my friends. And friends are here today in such a large number, I'll never forget. I'll say something in Urdu, with the permission, sir, if you don't mind. Dosto, nafrat aapse koi kar nahi sakta. Friends, nobody can have animosity or hatred towards you. दोस्तों नफरत आपसे कोई कर नहीं सकता, कर्ज आपके एहसानों का मैं भर नहीं सकता. I cannot thank you enough for all that you've done for me. आपको नहीं पता कितने करीब हैं आप मेरे दिल के. You don't know how close to my heart you are. ओ दोस्तों, आप जैसा दोस्त किस्मत वाले को ही मिल सकता है. One more in life. Actually, I don't know, sometimes I wonder, people look at me and they say, this guy must have had a whale of a time, you know. His face shows no frown, no wrinkles, no line, and not, whatever it is. Well, I said, maybe God's gift to me. I've been through hell. I've been through bad weather. I've been through rough times. I have 30 years of my life from 1964 when I became a second lieutenant to 1994 when I became a brigadier and went to the National Defence College to do a prestigious course because I had one of the best profiles of anybody in my batch. I had never been posted to a place like Delhi. And my father was there, a retired colonel living in Defence Colony, my father-in-law. I never asked them, please come and help me get a posting to Delhi. That was not my aim. I did soldiering the way the army wanted me to do. So I did more than my share of field postings. I talked about 8 postings in 8 years. Well, life has been like that. When I told this to Shahid Saab, who was the Pakistani ambassador, he was in a dinner sitting next to me. He said, General, you must say you became a chief without 30 years of being posted in your army headquarters. I said, yes. He said, I salute you. That was his tribute to me, because that's what he felt, the soldier in me took me to. I said, in our country, in our army, you're totally secular. You're apolitical and you're professional. So, and we don't write off a good guy. And no organization, I can say it's in the world also, all of you are very important people in high places. Nobody writes off a good guy in a hurry. That's part of my book on leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, my positive approach and optimistic approach had a lot to do with my spiritual beliefs. It was not about going to the temple or praying every morning or performing some rituals, but trying to be a good human being. Due to this, I could not be subjugated by doubt, despite the challenges and rough weather I went through. For a soldier and an officer in particular, faith is a personal issue and hence should play no part in his official or his public life. This has been my firm conviction. What do I treasure most in my life? The affection, love, and trust and devotion that I received from my officers and men in arms, whom I had the privilege to command, is something that is priceless, and I was fortunate to get it and value it the most. And I also would like to say that determination was there, because I said, no matter how daunting the challenge, nobody will take the smile away from my face. It was my conviction, and therefore I'll say a small share on that. हम वो नहीं जो हवा के साथ चलते हैं, हम वो नहीं जो हवा के साथ चलते हैं, हम वो हैं जो हवा का रुख बदलते हैं. Three generations of my family rose 18 rungs of the ladder from a sepoy or a private to a Coast Guard general, and I would say, whenever I hear the sound of a bugle, my grandfather's face flashes in my mind and his words resonate. When one's path is righteous and the cause is just, one will always be crowned with success. And Sepoy the beta Karnail, or Karnail the beta Jarnail. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I would not be able to thank you enough for being here to grace this occasion for my book launch. What a privilege to have such an elite audience. And while I'm saying I'm extremely grateful to my publisher for this quality book and my friends and well-wishers who unstintingly encouraged my endeavors for the last 5 years, Kush one Singh being on the top of this list. And most importantly to my immediate family, my parents, my loving and caring wife Rohini, who has been a wonderful companion and played an invaluable part in this success story, and my adorable children Vivek and Soumya, who had to face the challenges of life so often without me and suffer the pangs of separation. I've enjoyed writing this book, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope the readers will enjoy it as much too. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for gracing the event and making it better.